It was supposed to be a quiet night in rural Ohio. A woman's body found in her own kitchen, her best friend nowhere to be found. But when investigators started digging, they uncovered a web of secrets, betrayal, and forbidden love that tore an entire town apart. It began as friendship. It ended in tragedy. And in the middle was a love affair no one saw coming. 3 people connected by trust, compassion, and acceptance. But beneath the surface, emotions were building that none of them could control. Emotions that would lead to violence, loss, and a courtroom battle that would divide a community forever. Welcome to Silent Witness True Crime Stories. Thanks to all my viewers and subscribers for your support. Stay tuned for daily true crime updates. Don't forget to subscribe and also download your free ebook by clicking the link in the pinned comment. This story takes place in a small industrial town in southeastern Ohio, the kind of place where everyone knows your name, your business, and your mistakes. In the spring of 2019, a woman named Georgia Turner moved into a modest rental house on the east side of town. She was 34 years old, a trans woman who had relocated from Kansas City wanting a fresh start. Georgia worked nights as a bartender at a local dive called the Copper Rail. She was quiet, kept to herself mostly, and just wanted to live her life in peace. That's when she met Naomi Wright. Naomi was 28. An elementary school teacher with a warm smile and an open heart. She was known around town for being kind, patient, and fiercely compassionate. Naomi had married her high school sweetheart Gideon Wright when she was 22. Gideon was 31, a quiet man who worked at a local manufacturing plant. He was the kind of guy who showed up on time, did his job, and went home without much fanfare. People respected him, but he wasn't the type to open up easily. Naomi and Georgia's friendship began when Naomi defended Georgia against cruel gossip at a grocery store. Georgia never forgot that moment. They exchanged numbers that day, and a real friendship began to form. Naomi invited Georgia over for dinner. Gideon was polite, if a bit reserved. Over the months, the 3 of them started spending more time together. On the surface, it seemed like a beautiful, unlikely friendship. But beneath that surface, something else was beginning to grow. By the fall of that year, Georgia had become a fixture in the Wright household. Naomi trusted her completely. But what Naomi didn't see was the way Gideon had started looking at Georgia when she wasn't paying attention. Gideon had been struggling for months. Work had become unbearable, the pay wasn't enough, and he felt like he was failing as a husband. He stopped talking to Naomi about it because he didn't want to burden her. And then there was Georgia. She listened. She didn't judge. She made him feel like he wasn't alone. For Gideon, that feeling was intoxicating. Georgia was caught in her own emotional storm. She had spent so much of her life being rejected, and here was this kind, decent man who saw her. She knew it was wrong. She knew Naomi was her friend, maybe her only real friend. But the loneliness she had carried for so long was too much to ignore. By December, Gideon started showing up at the bar more often, always alone. Naomi started noticing that Gideon was distant, distracted, less affectionate. One night, after Naomi had gone to bed early, Georgia texted Gideon. "You okay?" He replied, "Not really." They met up the next night after Georgia's shift. They sat in Gideon's truck in the parking lot, talking about feeling trapped, about being misunderstood. And then, at some point, the talking stopped. Gideon reached over and took Georgia's hand. She didn't pull away. Over the next 2 months, Gideon and Georgia began seeing each other in secret. They met in parking lots, cheap motels, anywhere they wouldn't be seen. Every time they were together, they told themselves it would be the last time. But it never was. Georgia wrote in her journal, "I know this is wrong. I know I'm hurting someone who showed me kindness. But for once in my life, someone isn't pretending. Someone sees me and wants me anyway." Gideon was just as torn. He loved Naomi, but he felt alive with Georgia in a way he hadn't felt in years. But in a town where everyone talks, secrets don't stay hidden for long. Whispers started spreading. Naomi started hearing things, little comments, veiled questions. One evening in late February, Naomi came home early and saw Gideon's phone on the counter with a text from Georgia. "I miss you. When can I see you again?" Naomi scrolled through weeks of messages, confessions, plans. When Gideon came home, she held up the phone and asked, "How long?" He sat down, his head in his hands. "I'm sorry," he whispered. Naomi walked to the bedroom and locked the door. When she finally came out hours later, Gideon was gone. If you're still watching at this point, drop a comment with, "I'm still here." Let's see who's truly following this shocking story. Word spread fast. The entire town seemed to know by noon the next day. Most of the judgment landed on Georgia. People said she had seduced Gideon, that she didn't belong, that she had destroyed a good marriage. Someone spray-painted a slur across her car. The bar owner told her it might be best if she found work somewhere else. Georgia was devastated. She tried calling Naomi to apologize, but Naomi wouldn't answer. Gideon stopped showing up to work and moved in with a friend. Naomi took a leave of absence from teaching. And then, on a cold March evening, Naomi sent Georgia a text. "Can we talk? Just you and me. Tonight." Georgia stared at that message for a long time. She texted back, "Okay. What time?" Naomi replied, "Come to the house, 7 o'clock, alone." Georgia arrived at 6:55. Naomi answered the door, her eyes red, her face pale. She stepped aside and let Georgia in. They sat at the kitchen table. Naomi poured 2 glasses of wine. "I just need to understand." "Why?" Naomi asked. Georgia's eyes filled with tears. "I never meant to hurt you. I just felt so alone, and he made me feel like I mattered." They talked for over an hour, sometimes calm, sometimes heated. Then, just after 9 o'clock, neighbors heard shouting, a loud crash, and then silence. At 9:47 p.m., a neighbor called the police. Officers arrived within minutes. In the kitchen, they found Naomi Wright lying on the floor in a pool of blood. She had suffered severe trauma to the back of her head. A wine bottle lay shattered nearby. There was no pulse. Georgia was found sitting on the back porch, her hands covered in blood. When officers approached her, she said, "I didn't mean to. I swear to God I didn't mean to." At the station, Georgia gave a statement. She said things got heated, that Naomi started yelling and blocked the door when she tried to leave. They struggled. Georgia grabbed the wine bottle to defend herself, and then, in a moment of panic and rage, she swung. But investigators found something that didn't fit Georgia's story. There was a third wine glass on the counter. Fingerprints on it belonged to Gideon Wright. Detectives issued an immediate search. Gideon's truck was found 2 days later, abandoned near a bridge 30 miles outside of town. There were no signs of a struggle, just an empty vehicle. A massive search was launched, but there was no body, no trace of Gideon Wright. Phone records showed that Gideon had texted Georgia hours before the confrontation. "Don't go over there tonight, please. It's not safe." Georgia never responded. When they re-interviewed Georgia, she admitted that Gideon had been there that night. He showed up about 20 minutes after she arrived, trying to calm things down. But Naomi turned on him, screaming at him to get out. Georgia said Naomi grabbed a kitchen knife. Gideon wrestled it away, cutting his hand. Blood found on the knife matched Gideon's DNA. In the chaos, Georgia grabbed the wine bottle and struck Naomi. She said she was trying to protect Gideon. But when Naomi fell and didn't get up, Gideon panicked. He told Georgia to stay there, to call the police, to tell the truth. Then he left. 3 months after Naomi's death, Gideon Wright turned himself in at a police station in Kentucky. He said Naomi had confronted him with the knife, that Georgia didn't mean to kill her, that it was self-defense. But he also admitted that after Naomi fell, he didn't call for help. He just ran. He said the guilt had been eating him alive. Georgia's trial began in the summer of 2020. The prosecution argued that Georgia had struck Naomi in a fit of rage, not self-defense. The defense argued that Naomi had been the aggressor and Georgia was defending herself and Gideon. Gideon took the stand, visibly broken. "I loved them both, and I destroyed them both," he said. The jury deliberated for 4 days. They found Georgia Turner guilty of voluntary manslaughter, not premeditated murder. She was sentenced to 12 years in prison. Gideon received 3 years for obstruction of justice. Naomi's family said justice was not served, but others believed Georgia had been a victim too, punished not just for her actions, but for who she was. In a prison interview 2 years later, Georgia said, "I think about Naomi every single day. I didn't want to hurt her. I just wanted to be loved. I wanted to belong. And I made choices that cost someone their life. I have to live with that forever." Gideon was released after serving 2 years. He moved out of state and hasn't spoken publicly since. In the end, 3 lives were shattered by love, lies, and choices that couldn't be undone. Naomi wanted to help someone who felt invisible. Gideon wanted to feel understood. Georgia wanted to belong. And all 3 paid a price far greater than any of them could have imagined. So we ask you, what do you think really happened that night? Was Georgia a victim of her own heart, or was there something darker at play? How would you feel if you were in Naomi's position, betrayed by the 2 people you trusted most? Or if you were Georgia, desperate for connection, only to lose everything in a single moment? If this story moved you, please hit that like button, and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another video. Thank you for watching. Stay safe, stay compassionate, and we'll see you in the next one.